Hello, Covenant student friends. It's good to see you all. Today it is Tuesday, April 14th, and I wanted to share some plant progress with you guys. Some things that I'm observing that are changing very quickly in my own home garden. And some of these things are maybe some plants that you have in your garden. I'll also show you my container plants to see how they're doing. I've got some vegetables that I think some of you might have, including a green bean and some tomato plants. So I'm excited to show you around, and let's see what's growing in the Tharp garden today. I'm really excited to show you this native plant here. I have an indigo bush, which you can train to grow like a tree. So over time I have trimmed off the small branches growing here so that it can almost grow as a tree. This can get up to 8 or 10 feet tall. Right now it's close to maybe 5 feet tall. But in just this past few days, I'm starting to see some buds showing, which I'm very, very excited about because I had cut off some of these branches that leafed out last year, and I wanted to see some new spring growth, and everything had been looking very tiny like this for weeks and weeks after trimming this in late February. Now I'm seeing the buds really developing and showing a little bit of some of that personality. So this indigo bush will leaf out really nicely, and hopefully this year, as opposed to last year, hopefully I'll be seeing some purplish red blooms in the summertime. So I think I'm gonna nature journal this one today. This here is Bonnie, and also a beautiful oak sedge. I planted this last fall here, and believe it or not, this little oak sedge was maybe about 3 inches tall when I bought it and about 1 inch wide, very small little plug. And after cutting it back in February, it is just thriving in this spot. This oak sedge likes to be a little bit wet, likes to get half-day sun, and you can see that it's about, I don't know, 12 inches in diameter, just about, but it is beautiful. It is enjoying this cool spring weather. I'll show you a picture of a new oak sedge that I planted and how tiny it is compared to this one. Here is an example of a tiny new oak sedge that I just planted here last week, and I bought this I bought this a few weeks ago at Greenscapes, and so it's really tiny right now, but in just a few months hopefully it'll be looking like the other one that I just showed you that's just really enjoying this shaded spot underneath the trees here. If you happened to check out our video about building trellises, you would have heard about the jasmine that I was intending on planting, and this is just the update on that jasmine right now. After taking it out of the pot, this jasmine is really stretching itself and enjoying the amount of space that we're giving it. You can even see here on the right side, it is starting to climb up the trellis. It needs a little bit of encouragement because it's such a big plant. It needs a lot of direction. So I put these bamboo sticks here to help these different vines to start to tendril their way up the trellis and onto the fence. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm really encouraged to see how well each of these stems have just branched off really nicely and stretched themselves out, and they're starting to make their way up this trellis that Mr. Tharp built for us. So I used to have the leafy greens over here in this raised bed, but it was starting to get way too hot, too much sun. Leafy greens like cooler weather, and they really enjoy shade. So I had to transplant some of them because I was noticing that a lot of them were getting really toasted by the sun. So I actually put them here along my fence where it gets some shade and a little dappled sunlight throughout the day, and they are very happy here. Pretty soon this butter crunch lettuce is going to be ready for me to snip and to eat and to enjoy. And I put some more butter crunch in these 2 separate pots, and then I have some little gem lettuce. Once that gets bigger, probably in the next 2 weeks or so, I'm hoping to harvest this lettuce, and then I can start over again, maybe start some new seeds. So if you are tuning into my container garden video, my how-to video, I planted 2 things. I planted a green bean variety, which I think it's the Kalima green bush bean variety, and I also planted a small tomato plant. However, my tomato plant totally shriveled up and bit the dust. So I was not very happy about that. I saw it coming. I think some of the cooler weather really got to it. But my green beans, on the other hand, are doing beautifully. So this is after starting my container 2 weeks ago. So I jumped ahead of you guys just because I wanted to be able to show you progress, something that you could see as you start to prepare yours this week. So my green bean plant is close to maybe almost 2 inches tall right now. And you see another little one coming up here at the bottom. I thought I had only put 1 seed, but I guess I put 2. But whichever plant looks the most healthy as it starts to grow and progress, that's the one I'm gonna keep in this pot. I only wanna keep maybe 1 plant in here since I know my green bean is gonna take up the whole space. But I'm really encouraged to see this growth so quickly in 2 weeks. So if you are doing a green bean variety, this is what it should look like after 7 to 14 days. You should already see some leaves developing. I started a different container variety last week, so this is 1 week progress here. Cucumbers. I have this extra large container, and I know cucumbers like to take up a lot of room. They also like to crawl, so I created this little cage. I'm running out of tomato cages. I think I gave most of them away, but I created this cage here to help encourage the cucumbers to grow, and so I'm just waiting for them to make their appearance. Right now I don't see any progress at all yet, but I only put in 2 cucumber seeds because they can get pretty competitive, and I put them on opposite sides of this big wide container. This is about, I don't know, 24 inches wide, so usually 1 cucumber does really well in a 12-inch pot. So I went ahead and tried 2 cucumbers. So I'm excited to report back on that. If you are growing cucumbers and if you got started early, I'd love to see your progress. Don't forget to send me some pictures or a video. I'd love to know how your garden is going right now. As far as raised beds, some of y'all are doing some raised bed planting. I put in my plants 2 weeks ago, and they're doing fairly well. Even with some of the cooler weather we've been having, I've been really encouraged by the growth happening here. In cooler weather like this, if you get worried about your plants growing, always add a little more compost around the base of the plant. Compost will add some warmth to your plants. If you buy a root starter for your transplants, that might help as well, in addition to good plant food. So don't be discouraged if your veggies are looking a little droopy right now. We are past the last frost date. You should be okay. And I highly recommend that you still get started. Don't let the cooler weather fool you. Over here, I started my zucchini seeds 2 weeks ago, and I'm already encouraged to see some growth here. You can see this little zucchini plant just coming up from the sun from that seed that I planted. I put in 2 seeds and I had 2 zucchini starting, but I know zucchini is going to take up quite a bit of room, and so I went ahead and just pulled out the second one that popped up, and I'm keeping this first one. It was the first one to show itself, so that tells me it's a pretty strong seed and plant. And so I was super excited to see that with my zucchini. And I love zucchini. So that's some more plant progress. This is another native plant that is a really nice ground cover. It likes rocky soils. It flowers. Sometimes you'll see little white flowering buds come from it. But I had this growing from a very small propagation, meaning it was just a little cutting at one point in time. I just had a little piece like this. And I took it and I grew roots out of it, put it in a pot, and it's been in there all year. Already, this Stonecrop, within a week of planting it, has really spread itself out, and it's going to create this really nice ground cover so that we don't see this dirt anymore. And this is an example of those beautiful white flowers that come from this stonecrop when it's blooming. And so I love this color. I love how it is just filled with surprises. This little plant with the shades of red and bright green, and then these flowers of white that will soon cover this entire hill area of exposed dirt. Stonecrop, again, it's a ground cover that likes to spread itself out on exposed open dirt, and it provides shade for the roots of other native plants. So I'm just really taken back by how well this has taken root in the last week or so that I have planted it. This is a prairie willow that I'm just really excited about. It's going to be a large shrub-like plant. It's another native plant that I just recently got. It does well in sunny areas, and it can really fill in some space. It creates a great habitat for small animals, especially birds. I'm more interested in creating spaces for birds than I am squirrels at this point, but it just turns out to be this gorgeous looking shrub. And I just bought this back in March, and it was maybe about 3 inches tall. And over the last 2 weeks since I planted it, it's now grown up to 12 inches. So the rain and the sunlight have really been in its favor. This native plant just looks beautiful already with these shades of green, this gorgeous deep red brown stem here in the center, and the leaflets are just absolutely gorgeous. This is something I might have to draw and record in my nature journal. So that's a little bit of plant progress to share with you guys. It's really exciting to see these things grow and to watch how the weather and the sunlight and everything, how it impacts these plants when they grow. So enjoy the adventure of it. It takes a lot of patience and waiting to see these things flourish. But if you're nature journaling, it gives you a chance to slow down and notice those little observations over time. Every day, our plants are changing. Stay tuned to learn about how I was able to fix my tomato plant. I know it looked like it was failing before. It kind of shriveled up. It got really cold with the weather. It didn't look healthy like my other tomato plants in my raised beds, but I'm excited to share with you my survival technique to save that tomato. So check out my next video later this week, and maybe you can do the same thing from home, how to resurrect a tomato plant, if you will. All right, until next time, go outside and do things.